Well, we got a little bit of a different episode today because I am going to recap for you the most recent Apple event where they announced new watches, new AirPods, and of course, new iPhones. I'm your host, Luke Clayton, and welcome to the Must Increase podcast. Welcome back to the Must Increase podcast. This is your home of Church Media HQ, Connection Culture. Our mission is to increase truth and inspire hope in the lives of your church, your business, your family, and beyond. And as I mentioned, I am your host, Luke Clayton, and it's just me today, just solo, no co-host, because I am looking to recap the Apple event that took place at time of recording just yesterday, I believe it was. By the time it's released, this episode's out there. It'll be a few days past, but Apple has announced, as they typically do in early September, new iPhones, watches, Apple Watches, and this time AirPods. And so we are going to forego our format and we're just going to dive right into a recap of the event. Now, if you're not watching, you may want to, because I will be sharing my screen a little bit here to kind of give you some of a visual of what is, so you can see some of the things that Apple announced and things like that as well. And so let's dive right into it. So the first thing to note is that this was another virtual event from Apple. And by now, this is become the standard for the past two and a half years, ever since the pandemic started. And so they're very well produced, nice events, but it still was completely virtual in that there was no live audience or anything like that. At least you didn't see them in the frame or in the video. So that was interesting, but they made it clear right off the bat that they were going to be covering three products, and they distinctly mentioned the Apple Watch, AirPods, and iPhone. And so they started with the Apple Watch. Now, the Apple Watch is now on the Series 8, and the Apple Watch Series 8 is, and here's the thing about the Apple Watch, I have to say, that it has been, and this is the case really with all Apple products and I guess products in general, the updates are mostly very incremental in that you don't really notice. There's not a lot. They try to make it sound like it's some groundbreaking revolution, but you know what? We've become so used to that and spoiled, if you will. I mean, I still remember the day when Steve Jobs announced the original iPhone and you could pinch to zoom on a photo and the entire audience gasped. And we are obviously far removed from that. It takes a lot to impress the average consumer, if you will. What I'm getting at is this was the first time that Apple announced something about the Apple Watch that actually got me to turn my head, if you will. I was interested in what it had to say, because they didn't announce just one new Apple Watch. They actually announced three. And the first is the Apple Watch Series 8. Now, here's the thing about the watch. When the watch was first released, it was more or less framed as a phone on your wrist, something that you could read and send text messages, make phone calls, something where you could even do your mobile payments. They have, the Apple Wallet for the phone there. But really, over the past few years, the watch has shifted to become primarily a health, fitness, and even a safety device. And so that really took center stage in terms of the Apple Watch. And so one of the things, and this is what they led with, and it was for the ladies out there, menstrual cycle tracking. Gonna leave that one there. You can go watch the event and the presentation if you want to learn more about that. I am not a woman, so I will not be speaking to that one. But that is what they led with. And again, it's about health, about all of that. And so anyways, ladies, go check it out on apple.com. I'm going to skip that one. But they also talked about car crash detection. And this is actually a feature that they announced would also be available in the iPhones, the latest iPhones as well. And this is really interesting. Basically, they are claiming now that that if you're wearing your Apple Watch and you happen to, God forbid, be in some type of a car accident, the Apple Watch will be able to detect that and be able to automatically notify emergency contacts, send them your location, call 911, get emergency responders dispatched to you, all pretty much automatically. So in theory, if you're driving, you have a car accident, you get knocked out unconscious, if you're wearing your Apple Watch or even have your phone in your pocket, in theory, Apple will be able to get somebody on the scene without you doing anything. And also, they featured a lot of they kind of did a precursor to this by featuring a video that showed all these situations where the Apple Watch, supposedly saved lives. And you've seen commercials about that and stuff. And this is really interesting and really is beneficial. And to me, this is one of those, we can talk about the weirdness, if you will, of Big Brother, I guess if you want to put it that way, being able to know where you're at in terms of Apple. But of course, Apple also keeps privacy at the forefront of all they're doing. So, they're claiming that, nay, they're not using that data. They're not following you and tracking you. It's all private and encrypted and all of that stuff. So yeah, we can get weirded out by how weird it is, I guess, that somebody can that in theory a little device on your wrist or in your pocket can, I guess, know so much about you. But this to me is a really good reminder that technology, with its many downfalls, this is a wonderful benefit to society in general, if you will. I mean, being able to literally save lives. I mean, that is pretty cool. And so the car crash detection was pretty great. They also talked about a new low power mode feature that's actually going to be available in the Series 4 watch and higher with the latest Watch OS 9, also international roaming. And again, I'm not going to dive into that. The new Apple Watch Series 8, I believe, I didn't catch, has 3 or 4 different colors. There's new bands and new faces. And I think the big thing everybody's wondering is, okay, where does it start in terms of cost? Well, it starts at $399 for the smaller size. I believe that is 41 millimeters, and it goes up from there. It starts at $499 if you want a cellular version. And so that was the Apple Watch Series 8. Then they moved on to the Apple Watch SE. Now, this is the low-end watch. Whenever you see SE tagged onto the end of an Apple product, it exists with the Apple Watch and the iPhone. What that means is it is kind of a low-end version of the product. It's still good, but it doesn't have all the latest bells and whistles. In this case, yes, the Apple Watch SE does have crash detection. It has a 30% larger display than the one before. They're claiming that it's 20% faster. And really the market, it's an interesting market that they're trying to potentially corner with the Apple Watch SE, is actually framing it to be for your kids. And so you're able to set up a watch for your kids without your kids needing a phone. Because if you know anything about the Apple Watch, it does not operate, as of now, it cannot operate without a phone. And so through the family sharing settings on an iPhone, you're actually able to set up your child's watch, which has been a while for a while, but they kind of just made you a reminder that this is what you can do. You can set up a watch for your child, and if you get the cellular version in particular of that watch, you can track your child, know where they're at. They're able to make calls and do text messages and stuff, but again, it's just a watch, so it's really limited on what they can do. They wouldn't be able to browse the internet or do really any type of advanced or much social media at all. And so this is actually really appealing. My daughter's only 5, and I feel it's a little bit extra to get a 5-year-old an Apple Watch, but at the same time, I really like the idea of my daughter having that way to reach out to me or somebody else in the family to say, hey, I need help, or again, being able to track her location and all of that. So I'm not saying I'm going to move forward this and pull the trigger on this yet, but it is really appealing, and it's cheaper than a phone because the Apple Watch SE starts at $249, and that is a whole lot more affordable than getting a kid a phone. phone. And look, I don't believe a kid should have a phone with all access. I believe if you ever did get your child a phone, you need to lock it down severely. But I do like the idea of my daughter having a device where she can access me and, like I said, others, and then also we can know where she's at and things like that. I can see a lot of benefits to that. And so this Apple Watch SE is a very interesting concept in that way. Now, the next thing that Apple rather announced about the watch is the Apple Watch Ultra. Now, this is a new rugged watch. It's really tailored to the adventurer, the explorer, the person who's doing all kinds of, crazy mountain climbing and ultra marathons and doing scuba diving and stuff. And this is it is a seriously rugged watch in that what it can endure. It is, I'll kind of move through pretty quickly because to me, this watch is cool, but it's overkill for the average person. But it's got an action button that actually is pretty cool. This allows you for quick control for like starting and maybe controlling a workout or another app. There's two buttons on the watch right now. There's the digital crown, and then there's the I forget the name of I think it's called the side button. I can't remember exactly. So this would be a button on the other side, a third button called the action button. So that's pretty interesting. It's got additional speakers and microphones so that if there's a lot of wind going on, you can hear and talk on your watch there, which is something I never do, but I'm sure there are those that do that. All versions of this watch are cellular. They don't have the option to not be cellular, and it's gets up to 36 hours of battery, or they've got this optimization coming in the software later that they say will actually give it up to 60 hours of battery. That's pretty appealing. And then they've got different bands, enhanced GPS. They're claiming it's the most accurate ever in a watch. They've got this feature called Backtrack, which basically if you're out on a hike or something and you get lost, you'll be able to backtrack and know, hey, where did I go? And you can kind of follow your way, hopefully find your way home. And then again, certified for scuba diving up to 130 feet deep. They got a whole special app. They're working with like a scuba diving company on. I kind of zoned out there because scuba diving is not really my thing. But anyways, so yeah, this is really interesting. Again, it's probably overkill. It's definitely overkill for me, the average person. I'm not opposed to, maybe taking a hike or something like that, but I'm not going to be your guy who's going to need a 60 hours of battery life because I'm out, backpacking in the mountains or whatever. That's not me, and that's not most people. I imagine most people will like the features. They'll buy this, and the most they're going to do is, I don't know, use it just to walk around their neighborhood. I don't know, but it is a nice looking watch, but it starts at $800. And so probably not going to be for most people. Now, the next thing that they announced was AirPods Pro. And AirPods Pro, here's the thing. It looks exactly the same as the current AirPods Pro, which I don't mind. I like the look of the AirPods Pro. I've got nothing against them, but there's literally no difference. They made a small change to the case. They added a lanyard loop on the side of it, but visually they're completely exactly the same. So they made the intro video. They did this intro video for it, which just made it seem really pointless because it was like just showing this video of this dude with AirPods and dancing around or whatever. And it's just like, well, they're the exact same. Why are you making a video if there's nothing visually different? I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. But anyway, so all this stuff in terms of the AirPods, it's really hard to see a massive jump in the technology here because at the end of the day, I don't want to say they're just headphones. They're the best headphones ever made. I love them. Couldn't live without them. But they are headphones. And so, I thought something interesting is something called personalized spatial audio. So spatial audio is where, you kind of get this surround sound feel going on based on different music. If you're watching a movie, like for example, it's kind of, I still can't decide if it's annoying or nice, but like for example, if I'm watching a movie, happen to be watching on my phone or my iPad, and I've got my AirPods in and I turn my head this way, it's like the sound shifts to where it always sounds like it's coming from my phone. In fact, as I've used it before, I've questioned, wait, are my AirPods working or is the sound coming out of the phone? It does work very well. And so But now they have the personalized spatial audio, which means it uses your phone, the camera on the the front-facing camera of your phone, to scan your head and personalize how that sound is delivered based on your specific face and head shape. Again, kind of weird, but impressive technology nonetheless. And then, of course, the noise cancellation they're claiming is up to 2 times better. Something they're calling, I believe they called it adaptive transparency. This filters out loud or harmful sounds. So there's a transparency mode where if you hold the stem down on the AirPod, it will allow you to kind of still have your music or whatever going in your ears, but you can hear what's around you as well. And so now they're saying, well, it'll be able to identify maybe harsher sounds and reduce or eliminate those, so that you're not hearing. I think the example was like a jackhammer or something like that if you've got that on. So that's a pretty interesting, again, technology. I think probably the 2 most appealing things to me about the new AirPods is the touch control. So now you can, which this has been on other wireless headphones, but now you can swipe up and down on the stem of the AirPod in order to adjust the volume. That's very much welcomed. And then a longer battery, that's probably the most appealing thing to me, because now you're going to get up to 6 hours on a charge, which I believe is up from about 4 hours. It's about what I usually get on them before they go, is 3 to 4 hours. So going up to 6 hours is really good. And then with your case, when you're done with your AirPods, when they do die, you put them in your case. The case charges them back up pretty quickly, and then you put them back in. And so with the case, you basically get 30 total hours of listening. So what's that? About 5 charges, full charges, if you run them all the way dead. So that's pretty nice there with a longer battery. Of course, they're saying that there's better tracking with the case if you lose them. That actually is welcomed as well, because anytime I've lost my AirPods, I struggle using the app to find them. And so that is nice. And there's a speaker now on the case, so if you do want to play the sound that you lost, you're actually going to be able to hear it better. And then you can charge that case with either your Apple Watch charger or a MagSafe charger. Again, that is pretty cool. Like I said, there's a lanyard loop on the side, and they start at $249. Now, when AirPods were first announced, that seemed like an outrageous price. And again, it is an expensive pair of headphones, but I can personally say that using AirPods as much as I do, it's completely worth it. I have spoken many times about how podcasting and audiobooks have been a huge part of my personal development over the years. And honestly, it's not that it would be impossible without AirPods, but I don't even know if I would have gotten as into that way of consuming developmental and growth content without AirPods. And so to me, they're completely worth it. I will be ordering a new pair because my current AirPods are on the outs, and you can actually begin ordering them as of September 9th, which I believe is right now if you're watching on video, but definitely by the time this is out there, you'll be able to go ahead and order these AirPods. All right, let's move on to the iPhone 14 and the 14 Plus. Now, this is a callback to whenever they came out with the iPhone 6, they announced phones the 6 and the 6 Plus, the normal size and the larger size, and they're going back to that idea. It used to be if you wanted the larger size, you had to go with the Pro model and get what they call the Pro Max, which they have that too as well. We'll get to that in a moment. But now we're on the iPhone 14 and the 14 Plus. First of all, I'm just wondering when Apple's going to finally ditch the numbers on phones. They've done it for basically everything else. They don't call it the MacBook 35, or they don't even call, they did the numbers for the iPads for like 4 years and then they got rid of that. So I'm wondering when they're going to do that for the iPhone. Like, just call it the iPhone Plus, the iPhone Pro, the iPhone Pro Max. Like, let's just make it simple. But they're still, giving it numbers as of right now. So the iPhone 14 is 6.1 inches screen, a 6.1 inch screen. The iPhone 14 Plus is 6.7 inch. Has what they're calling the Super Retina XDR display, which is an impressive display, but we're not going to dive in all of that. It comes in 5 colors: midnight starlight, blue, purple, red. And of course, they're boasting all-day battery. They're saying the 14 Plus has the best battery they've ever put into a phone. Now, here is what's interesting about the 14 Plus. They have actually, the 14 and the 14 Plus rather, is that it seems that all they have done, for the most part, is taken what was the 14 or the 13 Pro and moved it into and just basically now reframed it as just the regular 14. And the main reason the main factor in that is that this is the first time Apple has not included their new chip in the base model iPhone. They're just using last year's chip. Now it's a slightly enhanced chip from last year's, but it is not a all new chip. And so again, it kind of feels like, okay, so you took what was the 13 and you added a few new bells and whistles, but basically now you're just calling it the 14. That's kind of what it feels like. And so with that, of course, the camera's better. Shocker. This has become the norm for Apple's updates. So the camera's better. I'm not going to get all the technical. Faster aperture, larger sensor, better low light, autofocus on the front camera. That's nice. And then they have something called Photonic Engine now that gives 2.5 times better low light. Again, this is all the usual stuff they announced. It's just now it's a little bit better. Action mode is nice. It's a mode with video that if you're filming someone while you're running or something like that, it's going to stabilize the video better. And here's what's interesting. All the 14 models, the 14 Plus and Pro Max, these are all no physical SIM card anymore. So everything's going to be done by eSIM, which is something that we all knew was going to happen, but you won't be able to just unplug your SIM card and plug in a new one. You'll actually have to do an activation by way of eSIM, which I've done it before. It's not that difficult. And so with that too, like I said, crash detection is now on the iPhone. That's pretty cool. And here's something really nice, is the emergency SOS via satellite. And so now if you are out in the middle of nowhere, there's no cell towers to connect to, obviously no Wi-Fi or anything, you actually could connect to a satellite. And the iPhone, they got a cool little way that it guides and shows you how to get connected to the satellite. And then obviously can't do much connected by way of satellite, but you can at least send a message letting someone know you need help, and where your location is and stuff like that. And so that is a pretty cool addition to the iPhone 14 line. And so the iPhone 14, the big question, what does it cost? Well, the 14, the base model, starts at $799 for the 6.1 inch, and then $899 for the what they're calling the 14 Plus. That's a 6.7 inch screen, and both are starting at 128 gigabytes of storage. This is a surprise. Everybody thought that due to the supply chain and inflation that Apple was going to up the cost on their phones, but they didn't. They kept it at the price that it's been now for the past few years. This is available to order at time of release. You can go and order this. It is shipping later this month, and then the Plus ships not until October. I will say this: if you are in the market for a new phone, you're probably going to want to go ahead and order it, whether it's the 14 or the 14 Pro, because of the supply chain issues. I'm sure that they'll get backed up really fast. Now let's talk briefly about the Pro and the Pro Max, and I'm doing that because the Pro and the Pro Max is pretty cool, but again, there's just not much different. Now the biggest difference is the aesthetics. So the iPhone now, for the past, since the iPhone 10, I believe it was, they started including the little notch at the top of the screen. The 14 Pro and Pro Max no longer has the notch. Instead, and that notch was so that they could have a place to put the camera, basically. But now instead they just have this little pill-looking thing, and they actually still have some space there at the top of the screen. In fact, this will be a good chance for me to show you my screen, show you what I'm talking about. So you can see right here, this is the notch if you're watching on what would be the Plus model, and then here we go. Here's the pill-looking thing, but they don't call it a pill. They have a really interesting name for it, and in fact, it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Usually Apple's marketing is really good at coming up with really cool phrasing and ways to, call their different, like I said, the photonic engine. That just sounds cool, right? Well, no, this little pill thing, they have a name for it, and they are calling it, here it is, the dynamic island. Now, I will say, it's a great concept. It's pretty cool what it does. What it means, I'll talk about what it means in a minute, but the name is just stupid. The name is dumb. I don't care what anybody says. It's a stupid freaking name. But this is pretty cool because this little pill will now expand based on, what's happening on your phone. And so, for example, if a notification comes in, a new call or something like that, well, what's going to happen is that pill is going to expand to show you the notification. If you're able to, if you got your music playing or something, and it'll show like the sound bars and stuff up in the little pill. And I'm trying to see if I can find something here on their website that demonstrates, that kind of gives a visual demonstration of it. If not, you can go look it up at some point. Yeah, surprisingly, I don't see that featured here on their website. And so, it's fine. Like I said, you can just go, they had a cool video and all that, and all the visuals that feature, how that works. But it was a pretty interesting a concept. Like I said, just a really dumb name, if I'm honest. And so that is the biggest thing as far as the aesthetics. It's got a really good display. Again, not going to dive into the technology of the display, but it is a very good display. It does have the A16 Bionic chip, which of course just means it's faster, more powerful, and it allows them to make the better camera. Here's something, now this is the true, like again, Apple's always talking about upgrades to the camera, but this truly is a massive upgrade to the camera. Up until now, the highest resolution, which is what you're going to get on the 14 or the 14 Plus, is 12 megapixels. Now, that is a good camera, but this iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, they are both going to include a 48 megapixel camera. That's a beast of a camera. So their standard camera is a 48 megapixel. Now on the iPhone Pro, you've got three cameras, and the ultra wide and the macro camera, those are still going to be 12 megapixels. But the main camera is 48 megapixels. That is pretty impressive, and that means that truly what I'm trying to say is that the photo quality is truly going to be very, very much better. And photos on an iPhone are already incredible, so these are going to look really good. The Pro and the Pro Max are able to take 4K, 30 frames per second in the cinematic mode, which was introduced last year on the 13. Basically, it allows to have the bokeh effect. If you're watching, kind of see how my background is blurred out. That's all done actually because I have a professional camera, a mirrorless camera here that I'm using for that. But now the iPhone, the 13, and now the 14 and 14 Pro, they're able to do that artificially and give you this similar look and feel of the blurred out, out of focus background and stuff. And now the 14 is going to be able to shoot that footage in 4K. So that is pretty impressive. And again, they're boasting the battery life is better. And so what does it cost? Well, the smaller one, the Pro, the 6.1 inch screen, that starts at $999 for 128 gigs of storage. If you want the Pro Max, that starts at $1099, and they are available to order right now. And those actually do deliver before the Plus, and I'm sure that's intentional by Apple to get those that are just can't wait to get their hands on a phone to go ahead and pay the extra for the Pro model. But those are available to order now. I will say, I tend to downplay the Pro models of the phones. I will say the 48 megapixel camera in particular is the first time that it's like, if I was in the market for a new phone, and I'm still deciding if I am or not, because there's one big reason I'm not interested in that the 14 line doesn't have me fully convinced. I'll get to that in a minute. But this is the first time that I've been like, it actually would be nice to have the Pro, over just the regular, in this case, 14 and 14 Plus. But I am still not sure, because the most tragic news of the event, and it's something that I heard rumors, I thought it was coming. There is no longer a mini phone, which when the iPhone 12 mini was announced, that's what I got. That's the phone I have currently. They added a 13 mini, but as of now, as of the 14 line, there's no more mini. I love the mini phone. I've talked about it before. I don't use my phone for a lot of things that most people use it for. I don't use it for social media and email. I basically use it to listen to music, podcasts, send texts, make phone calls, pretty old school like that. And so because of that, I don't need the bigger screen. I prefer to do a lot of the other things with social media and email. I prefer to do that on either my computer or an iPad. And so anyways, that's why I went with the mini. And, now that there is no mini, I don't know. It's going to be really hard for me to upgrade because I've gotten so used to the size of the mini. So what I might be doing, like I said, AirPods Pro, the new AirPods Pro, that's a lock. That's happening. Totally worth it. Won't even think twice about that one. What I am thinking about though is I'm on an Apple Watch Series 3. And so what I might be doing is going with an Apple Watch, maybe Series 8. I don't need the 8 necessarily. Maybe the SE will be enough, because if I do that and purchase the AirPods Pro, I'm still coming out less if I do it right than I would be if I bought an all new phone. And so I'm leaning towards that and seeing and kind of getting into an experimental phase where I say, what can I do on maybe with just a watch that I usually use a phone for? So I don't know, maybe more on that later, but that's what I'm leaning towards. But if you are in the market for a new phone, the 14 again, the upgrades on phones in general have been incremental. That's not a word. Have been incremental over the years. But again, the 14 Pro camera is a massive upgrade. It is nice that they have a slightly new aesthetic look with that dynamic island or the little pill thing at the top. And even the Plus is not a bad phone. They still kept the 13 in the lineup, so now the 13 and I believe the 12 are also available, and so they're going to be even more affordable now. So it is a great time to order a new phone, and if you're in the market for one, go for it. But yeah, so that is the recap of the event. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Now, we didn't do our normal format, stuff we like and questions, but if you do have questions, be sure to text those to us because we will be getting back here in probably the next episode answering a few questions. Be sure to send us a text to 615-900-4461. That's 615-900-4461. Let us know your questions, and we may answer them right here on an upcoming episode. But I want to thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Must Increase podcast. Be sure that you're subscribed wherever you're listening, and we are really glad to have you here. Maybe share it with your friends, pastors. This is great kind of content to share with fellow church leaders, or even with those maybe even with people in your church, because we're trying to help you navigate this crazy media-driven culture so that we can use the power of media to increase truth and inspire hope in the lives of others. Thanks again for joining us right here on the Must Increase podcast.